What's up, y'all? I wanted to talk about a couple of things on this episode. Um, First, I want to talk about this urgence to reopen schools. Um, this real utterance of we have to we have to get these kids in school, and they need to be in person learning, and the virtual learning didn't work, and there's too many kids that need to eat, and so on and so forth. Um, my take on that is, I know a lot of people have concerns, rightfully so. Um, they have concerns opening up the schools because, you know, kids pose they pose the least acceptable to risk with this COVID-19. But a lot of kids are in houses with elderly people, so they can bring it back to these people, and that's like the main concern. Even some kids have died from it, so you can't even say, well, kids, they'll be all right. I mean, even if they catch it, they'll be all right, whatever the case may be. So I get the concerns, and plus, schools tend to be big carriers of germs, because most times when family members get sick in the household, 9 times out of 10 is because uh, it was because a kid came home. He caught something from one of the other kids or whatever. He came home and then got the whole freaking household sick. So yes, the school is a petri full of germs. But I think I'm more concerned with the fact that, if you're in a position of keeping your child at home and you're still working from home, great for you. That's beautiful, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, when I look at things in a whole perspective, because a lot of people like to throw out um what they consider solutions, but usually those solutions only fit them, or maybe a handful of people like them. You know what I'm saying? Some things are just not that doable. It's not that feasible. Um, when you're in decision making positions, you have to sit. You're not gonna please everybody, but you have to make the best decisions that pretty much cover everybody as a whole, not just a small portion, not just people like you. You have to sit there and can take everything into consideration. So my concern is with parents who don't have that luxury and need to get back to work. Those essential workers that never really stop working, that really can't afford all that daycare. Now, I'm all for keeping the schools closed if there's a contingency plan in place. But from what I hear, there's no contingency plan. And they've been dragging their feet about a second stimulus, let alone letting these parents be able to stay home with their kids and still not still get money so they don't have to worry about their bills. You know, um, we've had these rent moratoriums, these mortgage moratoriums, but it's really more of a hindrance than a help, because um a normal forbearance is, they'll forgive your payments for a certain period of time, and what they'll do is they'll take those back payments and they'll put it on the end of your mortgage. So you have to pay it back, but it's at the end of your mortgage. So when you're making those last few payments, you're sitting there making a few payments more or what have you. In this case, that's not the case. They issued this forbearance, but at the end of the day, when this moratorium ends, these lenders is going to be looking for their money back and money back in lump sums. So, that heads to a big crisis, and it might head to a lot of freaking evictions or what have you. But you know, there have been plans put in place, like right here in New York. They have a rent relief assistance, but it's only implemented for 2 weeks. You can get up to from 1 to 4 months based on what you qualify for, and it's not a first come first serve basis. It's basically based off of economic and social need. Whoever has the greatest economic and social need will be put in at the top of the list, but it's only till the end of the month. Oh, and so you have that in place to try to counteract all the evictions, but there still hasn't been no cancel rent or anything like that. Back to the schools, there hasn't been no real plan for those parents who can't afford all that daycare and can't afford to stay home. So that's the issue you have, and you can't sit there and come up with this thing working off of emotion, saying, well, you know, you got a choice. Either you sit there and take the risk of your child dying, or you keep them home. It really isn't that simple. But going to a deeper part of the problem, is the root of all this. This capitalistic society that America is built off of, that puts you in a position where you have to sit there and choose between life and being able to pay your bills, life and being out on the street. You shouldn't have to make these choices. You shouldn't have to make these choices, and it shouldn't be a debate on your tax dollars being able to help people in need. It's always so funny. People have these fits about these social programs that's out of tax dollars to help people, but they never sit there and have a problem with these unnecessary wars. All this money put into the defense budget, which is a part of the discretionary budget, or what have you, and it doesn't need to be as big as it is. And they have they cry if you sit there and talk about even cutting the budget by 10%. They cry about it. For what? Why? We don't need all this money being poured into the defense budget, but people don't never complain about it. People don't complain about these corporate bailouts. That's out for tax dollars. There's a lot of things that tax dollars go to that don't benefit us. But the minute you talk about tax dollars benefiting us, benefiting people who actually might need help, it's oh well, they're lazy, and they're not working hard enough, and it just makes them dependent, and they want that handout and whatever else they can come up with. You know what I'm saying? And it all equates to these false ideologies that's put out in the media, and that's all they roll with. Most whites who speak on black issues, all they know of black issues is what they sat there and saw in the media or heard from their constituents, their counterparts, their family members. That's all they know. They don't know nothing about black life outside of that. But they swear up and down they know so much about us. We're deadbeat dads. We're welfare queens. We're violent. We should be watched at all times. The list goes on. But it all comes from ideologies, and it all comes from, just the lack of education, the lack of wanting to educate yourself. You just want to, pick something and run with it, and that's your go-to. That's your go-to. And because we have such a capitalistic society, you have to choose between life and paying bills. Because we live in a capitalistic society, you have to have people pinned up against each other. You have poor fighting the poor instead of poor fighting the rich. You're blaming another poor person instead of blaming the root of the problem, the rich people. Why? Because attacking the rich people attacks your possible dream of being rich like them. So-called working hard and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. So you protect them. In essence, as you're protecting them, you're sitting there, you're making it sour for yourself. Don't even realize it. People really need to wake up. We could sit there and survive off of other other forms of government. And they make it like socialism is so bad, but you'll sit there and benefit from socialism in a heartbeat. A lot of the things you sit there and use every single day is part of socialism. But I digress. You know, capitalism is so good, right? Got you working hard, working paycheck to paycheck, 2, 3 jobs, sitting there getting all these degrees. I'm one of them getting these degrees. Sitting there getting all these degrees, accumulating all this debt that you have to pay back. Capitalism is so beautiful, right? You know what I'm saying? I had to play the game. I had to play the game. And you have some who always just say, oh well, why are you gonna keep on punching the clock for somebody else? You can have your own business. Why people don't want to start their own business? That's not cut out for everybody. And even if you sit there and start your own business, there's no guarantee that it's gonna be successful. And then what happens? You go back to punching the clock, right? Then on top of that, you have to sit there and work towards having enough money to sit there and function with the business, because 9 times out of 10, you're not getting that business loan. Somebody else that don't look like you or me is gonna get that business loan. You be lucky if you do get a business loan. Excuse me. But yeah, that's why a lot of us, we have online companies. No brick and mortar, online companies. But you keep thriving in that capitalistic society, and it kills me. Everybody, they also talk about investing. We don't invest. Well, maybe we should make some kind of investments. But I find it funny when I don't know what your assets look like, whatever, but I'm pretty sure you're not rich. But you're sitting there reaching out to me, telling me that if I sit there and join your club and pay whatever 99 a month, you'll teach me how to invest. You and teach me about forex and all that other stuff, right? I just find it funny, because a lot of people come with like a one-way street when it comes to our liberation. And like I've said this many times, it's gonna take many layers, and that's why you need many players. It's not just finances, it's not just politics, it's not just land. It has to be a combination of all. It's not just code. It's not just community. It's all of it. All of it. But a lot of people have this one size fit all solution, and where are we going with it? Where are we going? So you have to keep these things in mind. The next thing I wanted to talk about, briefly, this fascist state. We already know how Agent Orange operates, and we already know he's done a lot of different things in a sense of fascism. But the ultimate, I don't know if anybody watching knows about this. I mean, they should know about this by now. But the ultimate was these protesters in Portland. These federal officers coming to snatch them up, not even identifying themselves.
We first saw them in the streets of Washington, D.C. last month. Mystery federal officers in unmarked military-style uniforms protecting federal buildings while wearing no identifying insignia badges or other markings. Now, this week, federal officers have apparently been using unmarked vehicles to grab protesters off the streets in Portland, Oregon. Now 50 days and counting into demonstrations there in response to the killing of George Floyd. The first accounts of this on social media were alarming to see. Oregon Public Broadcasting chased the story down, reporting, quote, federal law enforcement officers have been using unmarked vehicles to drive around downtown Portland and detain protesters since at least Tuesday. Personal accounts and multiple videos posted online show the officers driving up to people, detaining individuals with no explanation about why they're being arrested, and driving off. One protester who had been picked up told the Washington Post, quote, I was terrified. It was like being preyed upon.
It's crazy. A lot of things can be stopped. If we rose up, if we band together more than sat there and criticize each other. Some things need to be criticized, though. But, a lot of things could be stopped. You can't sit there and think, well, that's just the way it is. What can we do? We don't have that kind of power. There's more of us than them. And at the end of the day, they need us more than we need them. You have to sit there and believe that. Because they wouldn't have the money and power that they have if it wasn't for us being the consumers, us being consumption. Us providing labor. I'll say providing labor. I mean, because some people have this belief that we're going to go into this big automation stage and a lot of jobs are going to be lost. So you could sit there and say, well, they don't really care about our labor. I mean, which is true, because at the end of the day, if they could sit there and get stuff done without even paying us, that's what they'll do. That's what they'll do. So they, actually, in actuality, yeah, they don't really care for our labor, but they do care about our consumption. They do care about our consumption. And at the end of the day, them doing the automation thing and whatever is backfiring unless they train those same employees to sit there and learn how to operate those machines, because it's still somebody got to operate them. But it's a backfire, because if people are not working, they can't spend, they can't consume, they can't contribute to the economy. So it's not a feasible thing to do, but it's something they want to do. It's something they want to do, and we sit there and we unknowingly protect this capitalistic system. Where some of us do. We protect it for that hope and that dream that we too can partake of that. We too can live that comfortable life, that get that house with that white picket fence and that nice expensive car and take them exotic trips and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. So we protect that. Right? People, you gotta, as they say, wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up and smell the coffee. They've been playing everybody. And it's clear as day. A lot of people waking up, some people still sleep, because, it still works for them. And, you know, it still upholds to their ideals, even if it don't really work for them economically wise. You know what I'm saying? It holds up to the ideals, so they protect it. It's nothing for them to protect it. But you need to wake up, you know? And reparations now. You know, I'm gonna be like my friend Dr. Aaron Johnson. He says that in his videos now every time, and he makes posts saying that every time now because it's overdue. It's overdue. We don't need no study on it. Y'all been rejecting or ignoring the HR 40 bill for decades now. Then there's another bill that's been introduced too. I can't remember the number for that. Maybe I'll look it up and I'll put it in this video. But um yeah, y'all been ignoring that anyway. And we don't need no study. There's been plenty of studies. There's been plenty of researchers. There's plenty of studies sitting there talking about the disparities. There's well documented history showing that, our oppression didn't stop with slavery. Plenty of studies. Plenty of studies showing that the average white family makes 10 times more than we do. And it ain't because we don't work hard, because plenty of us do. Plenty of us do. You know what I'm saying? You don't just look at the welfare cases, the child support cases, and so on. That's small portion. Small freaking portion. And you have that in every single race. Why is just focused on us? It's just like the so-called black on black crime. You have that in every single race. But you only hear black on black crime. You only hear it for us. But every single race kills proportionately at the same rate. It's there. The research is there. Do it. Look it up. I mean, I'll probably wind up saying this in all my videos. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'll put little clips here and there now, when I do my edits. But I'm not going to always do that. And I'm not going to sit there and give you every freaking thing. But I put it in there mostly so you can know I'm not pulling this out my ass. That's basically, the main purpose of these videos is to pretty much educate. Some of it you might know. Some of it might be a refresher. It doesn't hurt to be a refresher because I don't remember everything I learned. I sit there and I go through school. I do these papers or whatever. I might not remember everything. So I have my books right over there on my bookshelf that I can go back to and reference. So I suggest that you do so. And, let's stop caving into this capitalistic society. And if you want to keep the schools closed, help, if you can, help develop some kind of contingency plan. Develop some good policies that can be implemented, that's feasible. Because you can't just think about we should just keep them closed and what have you. It's not that simple. You gotta think about people gotta make a living. They still got bills to pay. Them bills are still piling up. They shown they don't really care about this COVID-19 thing because they haven't really planned out this thing. They never planned it out. They still not planning it out. They still playing it off. So, we have to get a good plan, and you got to sit there and think about things. You can't just think about your situation. You got to think about the big picture. That's That's all I say when it comes to, when you talk about the subject of opening up back to schools. Like I said, I totally understand your concerns, but you also got to think about how it's not so easy for some parents. It's not so easy. And it is not as simple as, oh, figure it out. Yeah, would you like somebody to sit there and tell you to figure it out? Oh, but you know, you just don't do that. Don't do that. Don't sit there and make a suggestion that you wouldn't even follow yourself. And on that note, I'm just gonna end this. Y'all have a good one. Remember, if you like what you hear, share. If you're new, subscribe. And hit the notification. Hit the notification so you know when I upload a new video. You can see it. It help me out. Help a brother out. Do that. All right, y'all have a good one.